Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Today, in honor of the holiday, we're going to be taking a look at one of the most successful Celtic punk bands in the world, Dropkick Murphys. And yes, Celtic punk is a niche genre that is played by a number of bands. In today's video, I want to take a look at the journey the band took from their humble beginnings all the way to creating their best known song, I'm Shipping Up to Boston. Before we get started, be sure to hit the bell notification icon and put all notifications on. I hear from a lot of my subscribers that they don't even get notifications when I post my videos. I would greatly appreciate if you guys did that. In addition to, of course, watching my videos and sharing my content. So before we start, I've never really talked about this on my channel, but I used to work as a video game writer starting in grade 11. I did the job for nearly 13 years, and as I got more experience and wrote for more reputable sites, I got to go to press junkets that the video game publishers would host. The first press junket I ever went on was Activision's upcoming game at the time, 2011's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 in LA. At that event, Dropkick Murphys played one night and Kanye West played the following night. I thought Dropkick Murphys were a lot better than Kanye.
So with Call of Duty Elite, players will be able to not only play with the friends they have, but find new ones. You can connect through just about any interest. Sports, like Barcelona fans, Manchester United. Music fans, like Dropkick Murphy fans like me. Yes. Or Kanye West fans like Condry here.
So getting back to the story, the band's origins date back to 1996. Mike McColgan, Ken Casey, Rick Barton, and Jeff Erna started playing music together in the basement of a Quincy, Massachusetts barbershop, forming the band essentially on a dare. A coworker of Casey's had a gig in another band and said to him, "You're always talking about starting a band. I dare you to form one and open for us." Despite being active in the local punk scene, Casey had no musical experience before they started to practice. Nonetheless, he got some friends together and they learned enough in 3 weeks to play a 30-minute opening set. From that night on, the group never really looked back. The origins of the name came from Dr. John Dropkick Murphy, who was a professional wrestler who went on to attend medical school. Because so many of the men that he trained were addicts, he opened up the Bellows Farm Sanatorium, an alcoholic rehabilitation facility in Acton, Massachusetts, which opened in 1941 and stayed open for 30 years. The rehab, commonly known as Dropkick Murphys, is part of the Boston area folklore. Parents in the region threatened to send their kids to Dropkicks if they caught them drinking. The guys in the band loved the story and adopted the name for their new band. Ken Casey recounted to Louder Sound, "I always just felt like I knew everyone in this town. Even before I was in a band, I'd be booking all ages punk shows at the Rat, which was like our CBGBs. Dropkick Murphys found inspiration from Sex Pistols, The Clash, and the Boston hardcore scene. At the beginning, they were just a normal punk group, but then they decided to punk up some traditional Irish songs all the members knew. It was this fusion that really got them on the radars of a lot of people in Boston. Their lyrics dealt with work, economic oppression of the middle class, and their beloved sports teams. While many bands struggle in the underground for years before managing any breakout success, the Dropkicks got an early boost when in 1997 they were invited to tour with their friends, the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, who were enjoying their new success thanks to their 1997 album, Let's Face It. That was the record which contained the biggest hit of their career, The Impression That I Get. That same year, Dropkick Murphy signed a deal with Hellcat Records and Epitaph Imprint, which was the brainchild of Rancid's Tim Armstrong. The band had been pressing their own 45s independently just to have something to sell at their shows. In those early days, they were doing it just for the fun of it, but once they were signed, they actually had the opportunity to seriously make a career out of playing their music. Their work ethic was also impeccable. Casey told Louder Sound, "We'd rehearse at 7 a.m. and the borderline homeless guy who took care of the rehearsal studios would scratch his head and tell us that most people get into music so they don't have to work those hours, but it made us feel like we had a real job." Ironically, the band were briefly banned from playing in Boston on St. Patrick's Day by Mayor Thomas Menino in the late 90s after a number of underage fans were caught sneaking into their show. It wasn't too long after this the band faced their first major lineup change when frontman Mike McColgan quit the band in the middle of the tour. While McColgan claimed he quit to become a firefighter, the band publicly stated that he did not align with their politics and work ethic anymore. Throughout their existence, Dropkick Murphys Murphys have been outspoken in their support of unions and the blue-collar working class. A few years later, Mike did actually become a firefighter, following in the footsteps of his uncle. Dropkick Murphy soon replaced him with the former frontman of the Bruisers, Al Barr. They put out a number of albums while signed to Hellcat, and over time they incorporated additional Celtic textures into their music, with instruments such as a tin whistle, bagpipes, mandolin, and banjo. By the early 2000s, the band went through several more lineup changes. A rotating lineup kind of became an ongoing theme for the band, like it does with any group that shrinks and expands at will. Only rarely is it done with such varied style, bridging so many interesting niches as Dropkick Murphys have managed to do. In all, there's been over a dozen different members in the band, and to date, vocalist and bassist Ken Casey has been the only constant in the group. Several albums deep into their tenure with Hellcat, Nora Guthrie reached out to Dropkick Murphys, who she thought were a kindred spirit with her father, Woody Guthrie. It turned out her son was a massive fan of Dropkick Murphys and told his mom about the group since they sang about similar topics. Woody Guthrie lived from 1912 to 1967 and is a legendary folk hero at the heart of 20th century Americana.
This land is your land, and this land is my land, from California.
If you guys saw the Bob Dylan movie A Complete Unknown, Woody Guthrie is actually portrayed in the film. Nora had wondered how her father's lyrics would sound if they were set to punk rock music, so she offered the group access to the Woody Guthrie archives in New York City. They used the archives to craft a couple songs at the time. One was the track Gonna Be a Blackout Tonight, which was found on their 2003 album Blackout. While it was written about blackouts that occurred during World War II, coincidentally 2 weeks after the song was released, the northeastern US suffered its worst power outage ever. Another song that was created thanks to Woody Guthrie's lyrics was I'm Shipping Up to Boston. The song first made an appearance on the Hellcat compilation Give 'Em the Boot 4. That compilation was responsible for breaking us in a lot of ways, so we felt like we couldn't say no, Casey remarked to Louder Sound. The group had assembled an instrumental piece of music that was notable for its fusion of contrasting musical elements. There was an intense, malevolent bass line, and there was lighter, more melodic accordion and banjo parts. The majority of the time though, Dropkick Murphy's songs started with lyrics and a vocal melody, and then they would build the song around it. But for I'm Shipping Up to Boston, the music was first written, and they were playing it as an instrumental. Casey acknowledged that guitarist James Lynch had created an impressive riff, but finding the right words to complement it proved challenging. He remarked, James Lynch had come up with the riff and it was so powerful, but I was just laboring to find a lyric that worked with it. He added to Louder Sound about finding inspiration for the song at the Woody Guthrie archives, stating, she, referring to his daughter Nora, told us her father had thousands of songs that were never put to music, just pieces of paper torn from notebooks. I said, my God, I'd love to come down to the archives. I had to put on special white gloves and I held these pieces of paper in the palms of my hands like I was holding a newborn child. One of those pieces of paper was a writing called I'm Shipping Up to Boston. It was only 5 lines long, but something clicked for Casey, who felt like he had finally found the perfect lyric for the band's instrumental. Personally, I loved Woody Guthrie's daughter's reaction. She was quoted as saying, my father has thousands of pages of deep artistic lyrics, and you take the one song I think he wrote when he was face because the lyrics are pretty nonsensical, but it fit into the song. That instrumental was soon aptly titled I'm Shipping Up to Boston, and it was written from the viewpoint of a peg-leg sailor who loses a peg leg climbing to the topsail and ends up shipping up to Boston to find his wooden leg.
I'm a sailor peg, and I lost my leg, climbing up the topsails.
The scant lyrics create a sense of ambiguity and wonderment as to what the full story is. Casey told Louder Sound, was he down on the waterfront looking at the ships? He probably wasn't actually seeing a peg-leg guy. It's not like we had pirates in the Boston Harbor in 1950. I really don't know, but the ambiguity makes it a better song. To me, the words felt lighthearted, and we've always had a few songs on every record that don't take themselves that seriously. The band's more is less approach was partially inspired by AC/DC. They realized that excessive musical embellishments like noodling and drum fills would have diminished the song's impact. Casey added to spin, so if you know the song, there's the verse, and then there's this long instrumental part before the chorus happens. If I was writing the lyrics for that song, I never would have left that empty. I would have wrote a verse, and I would have felt the need to fill that space with a pre-chorus. I think that's what makes a song so big, because there's nothing there, and there's just this instrumental build-up before the chorus. It creates that tension and the wait for "I'm shipping up to Boston" chorus. So the band embraced the George Costanza approach to create their biggest hit.
If every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right.
Yes. I will do the opposite.
The song was re-recorded for the group's 2005 album, The Warrior's Code. Then in 2006, the song got a lot of exposure when director Martin Scorsese used it in his Oscar-winning film The Departed, which starred Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg, and Jack Nicholson. As a result, the song was featured prominently in the movie in several scenes.
Yeah, you got a tail. 2 cars, not very subtle.
Thanks to the exposure the film gave the song, it topped the bubbling under the Billboard Hot 100 chart. So how did the song end up coming to the attention of Martin Scorsese? Well, a lot of the band's friends had small parts in the movie, and as they were filming it and wrapping things up, they told the band they were talking directly to Scorsese himself to get the song in the film. Dropkick Murphys, though, didn't believe it, considering the movie was finished being shot and no one had reached out to them to license the track. So it turned out Robbie Robertson, who played with Bob Dylan back in the 60s and was also in the legendary group The Band, had long worked with Scorsese on film soundtracks, and he was the one who brought "I'm Shipping Up to Boston" to the director's attention. Casey recounted to Louder Sound, "After that, we decided to make a music video with our own bootleg version of The Departed. The police and the hooligans were real. They're all friends of ours." The song has also been featured in numerous high-profile TV shows, as well as sporting events, and it was also released as downloadable content for both Guitar Hero World Tour and Rock Band 2. As for whether the band is sick of playing the song, Casey remarked, "People ask me if I get sick of that song. No, I never have. The beauty of "I'm Shipping Up to Boston" is that it's only 2 minutes long. It leaves you wanting more." Bruce Springsteen ended up performing the song with the band in 2011 at one of their shows in Boston. The song has also been used to pump up the crowd before the Boston Red Sox playoff games during the 2013 season. It was also performed on field by the Dropkick Murphys before Game 6 of the 2013 American League Championship Series and Game 6 of the 2013 World Series. During President Joe Biden's April 2023 trip to Ireland, he actually went on stage for a speech to the song playing in the background. The band's 11th studio album, 2022's This Machine Still Kills Fascists, was recorded entirely using unused lyrics and words from Woody Guthrie. It was during this period they also recorded their 12th studio album, Okama Rising, which saw them do an acoustic version of "I'm Shipping Up to Boston." That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day and go easy on the green beer tonight if you plan on celebrating.